Well, hello and welcome to the introductory webinar for the Advisory Business Development Program. I'm Heath Alloway, one of the directors at Upstream Academy, and I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us today. And our goal over the next 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, but we'll see how many questions come in. And we are going to provide you with a good look at the program, a good overview of the program, and share some insight to our approach and the process that Amy will talk about here in just a minute. And then also what to expect from your program participants. And over the past several months, I've had countless conversations with many partners, many firms, really about the state of the profession and some of the various hurdles that we're facing, but also some of the great opportunities that we're seeing in front of us. In almost every one of those conversations, capacity, it's been front and center. And although many firms, they've had a strong year, they're really trying to figure out how to drive the right kind of growth for their firm. That goes to, if we are having capacity issues, how can we find and how can we work with more of those A and B level type clients? How can we figure out how to potentially get rid of some of our D level clients or move them up the ladder? And over the past several years, I've had a lot of conversations with firms about sales training. And when you dig a little deeper on that, it's not really what firms are after. What they're really looking for is driving the right kind of growth for their firm. That's the profitable, organic type growth. They are looking for their partners, their senior managers, their managers to be better advisors. They're looking for their professionals to find and serve and grow with the right kind of clients. And I don't necessarily just think that that's high performing firms. I think that many firms in our profession, they have that goal and they're looking to drive that kind of growth within their firm. But part of the problem that we see, many firms have been successful. They've been successful with kind of that mindset of this is the way we've always done it. And it's the, if it's not broke, let's not fix it kind of mentality. And I don't say that in any kind of negative way. I don't fault firms for that. And, in some years that works, some years maybe it doesn't work as well. But the good news is when you start diving deeper into this, that advisory mindset and different business development skills, they can be taught, they can be improved with a process. And having that focus and that repetition, it's just like I always compare it to learning a new language or exercising, or maybe training to run a marathon. The more repetition, the more focus, you continue to get better and better. And whenever you do have that focus and you do get better, it starts to put your firm in a position to have a competitive edge. And not only the that, but growth is so core to the mission and culture of so many firms. When you start looking at that, if firms are good at driving the right kind of growth, it puts them in a position to invest in others. It puts firms in a position to focus on career development. It helps with that retention. It helps with recruiting and creating those rewarding career opportunities. And not only that, if a firm has the right kind of growth, it puts them in a position to better serve clients. Maybe that's launching new services to help clients. Maybe that's taking the services you already have to current clients. And it positions your firm to have great financial success. And not only at the firm level, I know I've spent time focusing at the firm level, but it's also very critical at the individual level. There are really two primary reasons that really stand out to me. And I think that first bullet point, that is so critical right now. If you are good at business development, it puts you in a position to really choose and find and work with the A and B level type clients. The type of relationships that are good for your firm, they are also the type of relationships that are good for your teams internally. They are the type of clients that want the advisory type relationship. They don't look for the trusted historians. And I think that is so critical to firms right now of finding the right type of clients that are a good fit for their firm. Not only that, the career progression aspect of this. When most firm leadership teams, when they're looking at potential partners, in almost all of those conversations, business development efforts and skills and how they function with business development, it typically is part of that evaluation process. And I know with our audience today, we have several partners listening in, and maybe you've made a part of that journey. But I also think it's a great reminder for our partner group to think about this and how do you communicate this to others within your firm? How do you communicate this to those that you coach? You never want it to be a mystery for your professionals on one, what it takes to become a partner, and then also what it means to be a partner. So it's a great reminder on why business development is so important for their career progression as well. And as we jump in, I am very big on relationships. So I did want to provide just a brief introduction for myself and also Amy Franco, who I'm delighted to have on the line with us today. So welcome, Amy.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Heath, and good to be here with all of you too.
And for those of you that I have not met yet, I joined the Upstream team back in April 1st, which was somewhat of a unique time to join the Upstream team, but it's been a great run so far. And prior to that, I spent close to 15 years with a what some would call a national firm, maybe super regional type firm. And I was in somewhat of a unique role. Many of my responsibilities really focused on firm growth. And I realized that firm growth, that can mean a lot of different things. But my primary areas of focus, I worked very closely with our industry leaders, national industry partners, several of our firm leadership members, also various service line leaders. And some of that focus was on strategic planning. How will we continue to grow the firm and to grow our different industries and niches? Part of that was on uncovering and developing new service lines. And then the other big area of focus that was overseeing our firm business development training program. And we went several years without a formalized business development program or process. And back in roughly around the 2013-14 timeframe, we made a decision to launch a firm program. This was not designed to be a flavor of the month. It was something that we decided that this is critical for the success of our firm. And a couple years into that, I was introduced to Amy, and very quickly, I could see that Amy was a great fit in our culture, and she was a very critical part of our training program, not only our program, but then also helping us implement a process within our firm. So, Amy, I will turn it over to you for just a minute or two to give a little bit more of your background as well.
Sure. Well, hello everybody. Like I said, great to be here. I'm Amy Franco, and my career path is maybe a little bit different. For the first 10 years of my career, I was in technology. So I all client facing, sales, business development. So I worked for companies like IBM and Lenovo. So that was the first part of my career, and then I took a pivot into entrepreneurship about 15 years ago, and got into the learning and development space. And so what that looks like today is working with firms like yours, also across some other industries. So I am cross-industry on business development initiatives, skill development, things along those lines. And that's why I think, Heath, you and I, we make such a good team in this type of program, because we bring our different backgrounds to everybody that's here, that's participating. And just the one quick comment I wanted to make about the folks who have joined us for today. It's really an interesting cross-section of different roles. So partner and shareholder roles, but also talent management and operations. I think that speaks to the need and the interest across firms to look at business development strategically, whether it's process or tools or the skill side of things that we're going to be covering in the program. So I just wanted to make a comment on all of you that were joining us today, and we really appreciate your interest. And hopefully by the end of today, we will have given you enough information to help you make a good decision about whether this is a fit for you, and we hope that you'll join us. So with that, Heath, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Amy. And one thing just to note as we jump in here, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to chat those in. At the end of the session, Amy and I will stay on for any additional questions at the end. We'll also have our contact information up if something does come up throughout today's session. And over the next several minutes, And we are going to get into that introduction and overview of the program. And as we talk through the foundation, the opportunity, I will lead us off there, and then I'll turn it over to Amy to really focus on more of the advisory mindset and what that truly means, and also the program and the actual process. And then at the end, I'll get into more of our expected outcomes and really some of the logistics, maybe less exciting part of it, but the logistics piece, it is also important. So at the end, as I mentioned, we will make sure to leave time for Q&A. And two of the most common mistakes that I see in our profession. One, we don't necessarily view ourselves as salespeople. I once had a retired CEO tell me if I would have known that I was going to have to develop a book of business and focus on business development, I would have found a different profession. So I think that was very telling. And in a lot of ways, maybe we see that as a negative and see sales in that negative light. So maybe we have a fear of what that looks like. And I think what that boils down to is really just a lack of understanding of what business development truly is in our profession. And part of that fear I've seen, many, they maybe feel like they have to push something on a client that they don't necessarily need. Or I've heard the talk around it's a numbers game. We have to reach out to this many people. It will result in this amount of revenue. And I'm not a big fan of the terminology of around the secret sauce. I joke and say that I've yet to see a secret sauce when it comes to business development. And one of the big misconceptions, it's around maybe we feel like we have to be an extrovert. That's not necessarily the case. Many times, some of the best listeners, when working with clients, are positioned to be great at business development. And that second area around capacity, we don't necessarily have time. Many of our partners or senior managers, they have a lot of responsibilities. Many other professions, they may have a full-blown sales team. Many of the firms that we work with, they don't necessarily have that. Growth is really, it's coming from our client-facing professionals. Not only that, maybe they have recruiting responsibilities or different responsibilities within the firm. So we find other ways to spend our time. And one of the goals right out of the gates with our first training session, we really try to redefine what the advisory mindset and business development means. And when we do that, we really focus on it. It's an extension of serving our clients. And it's an extension of our firm culture. And business development, it's more about the relationship aspect. It's more about building that high level of trust with the right kind of clients and developing those raving fans. And whenever you're developing those raving fans, they're the type of clients that they may talk to their peers or others in their niche or their industry, or maybe even just complete strangers about the experience that they have with your firm. And I will use, and you'll probably hear Amy mention this as well, I will use the terminology around pre-clients instead of prospects. I tend to look at our prospects as pre-clients. So we are trying to already provide great value in our interactions with them and giving them a lot of insight on what it would be like to work with your firm. And when you take that helping instead of selling mentality, I truly believe that anyone within a firm, they can play a role in driving growth. And in fact, when you take that advisory approach, I think there are more people in our profession that are actually positioned to be great at business development than maybe what they even think. And then that other big hurdle or mistake that I see is just simply we don't necessarily have time. And I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but whenever there's a skill or an area of focus that maybe we don't have the confidence level, or maybe there is that level of fear, maybe it's easy to put other tasks or other responsibilities ahead of business development. But if you peel that back and start to unpack that, uh, if growth is so important to a firm culture, growth is so important in a career development, we have to find a way to make time. We have to find a way to be very intentional and impactful with our time. And there's always a couple of questions. I'm not going to look for a show of hands or an answer from our audience, but whenever we ask that question of who would like to increase their new client base by 20%, almost everyone in the room will typically raise their hand. And then the thought of, do you have the capacity, or would you be willing to work 20% more hours. To get to that, there's generally a no whenever we ask that question. So the good news is with what we're focusing on with around process and some of the various skills, we're asking firms to work smarter. We're not asking to invest more time. We are refocusing on how and where to spend our time and where we are going to see the most success. And when you think about that and being the most impactful with our time, I compare it to playing a video game with one of my kids. And both of my kids, they really enjoy playing Mario Brothers on our DS. And from time to time, my daughter, she will be 9 next month. And just jokingly, I've kind of referred to her as my IT support when I've been working from home, because I think she's better with technology in a lot of ways than maybe I am. And whenever she starts playing, she will last several minutes, and then she'll look over at me and say, "Daddy, can you try to beat my score?" And it very rarely happens. In fact, I'm not sure that it has ever happened. And why that happens is she's played so many times, she starts to anticipate what's coming next. That there is no difference in business or business development. When you understand what's coming next, it really puts you in a position to be successful. And as you start to anticipate what's coming next, you start to uncover and you start to really recognize those patterns. And whenever I say that, just know I'm not saying every client relationship will be the same. Not every pre-client or prospective client will be the same. So not every pursuit is going to follow the pattern to a T. But whenever you start to see this, you can start to potentially see what's coming next. And that's really what puts a firm or Amy and I in a position to really focus on process. And whenever you have that process, business development, it starts to become repeatable. You become more efficient, you become more effective and impactful with your time. And when you get to this point, it really helps a firm look at business development as a competitive advantage. And if you think about most firms, we have processes around so many different areas, but many firms don't have a process for business development. We have processes for time reports. We have processes for different client work that we do, or maybe it's client acceptance or whatever it may be. And so when we talk about this and we give a firm a track to run on, it really positions this to become leverageable within a firm in building that advisory mindset and doing it over and over, and it starts to become part of your firm culture. So with that, I will now turn it over to Amy to talk through that advisory mindset and really the approach to a process around business development. So Amy, I will kick it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. And I wanted to come back to something that you said just a few minutes ago when we were just talking about some of the common business development challenges, or maybe some of the internal obstacles that we or some of our professionals face. You know, Heath and I are probably pretty uniquely positioned in that we share a lot in common with your professionals, manager, senior manager, director, wherever they happen to be in their trajectory. And what we share in common is that balancing act of the time invested in business development versus the time invested in client delivery. So I can probably speak for you, Heath, when I say we share that challenge with people, and we live that every day. So just by virtue of that, the content that we've created, the strategies, the ideas that we put forth in this curriculum are really thoughtful with that in mind. So how do we help our professionals make the most of their business development time, create the right mindset, create the right behaviors around process that help them leverage their time and get better results, and help them see the personal and professional rewards of business development. So I just wanted to mention that for all of you that are considering this program for your folks, just the approach and the mindset that Heath and I have around that. So with that, I have a few slides to go through, and I wanted to take some time to introduce this advisory approach. And for those of you that are online and in chat, just wanted to get your perspective. And if you think about someone that you would personally trust to advise you, what would be some of the behaviors or their attributes that would tell you that they have an advisory mindset? So if you are in chat and want to pop a few things in, I will be happy to read those off as we go. But maybe Heath, you and I can maybe talk back and forth here for a moment while we look for people to chat in on just some of what those attributes are. And I would say you probably hit on one early on, which was that ability to be a really, really good active listener and leverage that listening to help people like repeat back what you've heard, but also use it to cultivate new ideas for them. So are there maybe one or two things, Heath, that you can think of with that advisory approach and that advisory mindset?
100%, Amy. We could probably talk until noon Central Time on this topic, but forward looking and not only we kind of get into the trusted historian versus trusted advisor, and having the right kind of conversations with your clients, not only listening but asking the right kind of questions to really dig deeper and find out what our clients, what their goals, what their objectives, what are their hurdles. So I think that is a critical part of it as well. So just that forward looking of having those conversations, sometimes just sitting down and being very strategic about introductions to others within your firm. I see sometimes the book of business mentality and the siloed approach. Whenever you look at more of a one firm approach, the power of your firm, you can better serve any client than any one individual. And so that's a critical part of just introducing the clients to others within your firm. That can be a big part of it as well. And just always bringing new ideas to the table. What are you seeing in your industries? What are you seeing in your niches? What are you seeing others struggle with? And sometimes it can be counterintuitive, but just turning off the billable clock and spending, investing to get to know your clients. And just Amy, one of the things we talk a lot about is just that the raving fans and the A-level clients of that is more rewarding in a career of those that want that advisory mindset. They want that kind of relationship. And those conversations typically go more towards value and not necessarily the fee pressures every year. So those are just a few things that are top of mind for me, Amy.
I think one more thing I would add is this is around the relationship building piece of it. And there's some interesting research. Heath, you've heard me tell this story many times, but there's this interesting research that was done by Adam Grant over at the Wharton School of Business. And what he was really interested in finding out was who was most successful? What type of approach could be the most successful when it comes to business development? And in his research, it was specifically salespeople. So he conducted research with over 300 salespeople, and he was trying to ferret out the attributes that would make salespeople successful. And the theory that he was testing was that the most outgoing, extroverted people must be the most successful in a sales profession, right? Well, what he found out was really interesting, and that it actually isn't the most extroverted, outgoing, gregarious person in the room that tends to be the most successful. It is actually people that I believe he's coined this term, ambiverts. And so it's not extroverted people that tend to be the most successful. It tends to be people who are considered ambiverts. And 2/3 of us are considered to be ambiverts. We're neither extremely extroverted nor are we extremely introverted. We would kind of fall in the middle of that spectrum. Ambiverts tend to be better listeners. They tend to be more flexible and adaptable in various business development situations. And because of that, they can build trust more quickly, credibility more quickly, and they can get barriers down more quickly. And I say, wouldn't we all want to be able to do that in the service of our clients and in the service of our pre-clients? So I offer up that research just to do a little bit of myth busting, if you will, that the most extroverted person in the world is the most successful with business development. There are really specific mindsets and skill sets that we can build to be successful. And so that's what we'll be covering in the program. So Heath, if we could just go on to the next slide, I will go ahead and cover our working definition of an advisory approach to business development. So I'll break down this working definition a little bit here. And we look at mindsets, behaviors, and then processes. And I'm going to hit process here in a moment. And the goal with those categories, those buckets, is that we want to help your teams proactively differentiate themselves in the eyes of the client or the pre-client, because that's really what matters in the end. It's their perspective. And if we can do that, then we should be able to amplify the value of the solutions that we bring to the table. And we should be able to create really tangible benefits for the client. And then I would also add for your firm. So if we can work on these things, these mindsets, behaviors, and processes, that's going to help us move forward in terms of business development and also serving our clients well. So what I'll do for a few moments here is actually walk through the process that we're going to be teaching. And what you'll see is that the process is actually broken down into 4 categories, and we cover each of these categories as part of the curriculum. I'll walk through each of these at a high level, and then if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in and we can get those answered. But the first category that we will be covering as part of the process, really for any given opportunity, any given vertical, any given client, there are some pieces to the puzzle that we have to be able to master in order to be successful with business development and helping them move forward as well. There's a lot of complexity, more complexity than ever before, and that's probably stating the obvious a little bit here, given the last 18 months. But the idea here is that the more that we learn about the client or the pre-client, the better positioned we are to be able to uncover new ways to help them, to uncover new solutions that could help them move forward and also help our firm. And so in this piece of the process, we cover things like there are some intelligence categories that we cover that we want to continually be learning about. He spent some time talking about how to categorize your clients and really decide where you're spending your time with your clients, because so much of mastering business development is our mindset and the decisions that we make about which clients that we're going to be spending our time with. So that's just a little bit of what we will cover in intelligence. The next piece of the puzzle it's strategic relationships. The right relationships matter. And being able to identify the right relationships to build, the network ecosystems that we're building those relationships in become really important. And once we have built those relationships, whether it's with a decision maker, maybe it's a center of influence, someone who's advocating on our behalf, we need to be able to have really productive conversations with those groups of people. So we'll introduce a framework here around having productive business development conversations. You'll hear Heath and I talk about frameworks quite a bit throughout this program, because a framework and a process gives your teams the track to run on and gives them ways that they can repeat and master the skills so that they build confidence, and then with that confidence, they continue to build the skill and be successful with it. So that's just a little bit about the relationships piece of it. The next piece of the puzzle is all about proposing, whether you're proposing new ideas, you're in a formal RFP or pursuit, or maybe it's more of an informal business development process. Most proposals fail to win business. They fail to be successful. And a lot of times it's because we did not position our ideas or our solutions in a way that was relevant enough to the person making the decision to say yes to working with us. So in this piece of the curriculum, we cover what makes for a really compelling proposal or engagement, how to present your ideas in a way that positions your firm, positions you as the right choice. And we get into some of the presentation do's and don'ts, strategies and pitfalls to avoid. Because what we want to do is provide your teams with the best ways to help them position your firm to win and use the precious time that you have wisely on the right engagements. And then the last piece to the puzzle is all about earning commitments. So I like to, he talks about secret sauce as the phrase that he likes to avoid. One of my phrases that I would love to eradicate from the vernacular is always be closing. That is, I am not a fan of that phrase, because I really like to look at this a little bit differently and look at it in terms of commitments. From the very first conversation that we have with a client or a pre-client, all the way through earning that first engagement or continuing the relationship, we are asking for and giving commitments. And if we can be thoughtful and strategic about the commitments that we need to have all throughout the process, we can integrate them into our process. And then it becomes a very natural part of the process to get to the point where we can confidently, clearly ask for the business. And we have made a compelling case to the client for them to say, yes, you're absolutely the right person and the right firm to work with. So in this piece of the curriculum, we will look at some different ways to think about earning commitment, thinking strategically and tactically, and then also giving them the language when it comes to that point to ask for those commitments in the business. So maybe I could stop there for just a moment, and maybe Heath, I don't know if you had anything else that you might add to any of this, or if we've had any questions or comments come in.
At this stage, Amy, no questions, comments, but the one thing I would add, and when I look at opportunity and where and how to spend your time, for many firms, one of the things we focus on as well is what's some will say cross-selling, what we'll refer to as cross-serving, of how to look for those type of opportunities and relationships as well. And on the proposed side, even in some cases of looking for opportunities to even bypass the formal proposal process to really kind of head it off before potentially any other firms get to the table. So those are a couple other things that Amy, I was thinking about as you were talking through the process.
Excellent. Yeah, so we cover all of those as well, and we leave plenty of time for debriefing of exercises, breakout rooms, things of that nature. So it's very interactive, and then they get the opportunity to apply these things to opportunities that they have within the firm. All right, so I just have one last slide to cover before we move on, and I wanted to give all of you some trends to be thinking about. And we do spend some time in the curriculum covering specific trends, and then they also get the opportunity to share some of the trends that they're seeing that will be useful for their peers to hear. So a few of these that you see on slide here. The first is the accelerated pace of return on investment. You know, our clients and pre-clients have become much more sophisticated and much more time-bound in terms of what they want to see with a return on investment for their investment in working with us. Decisions are made often much more quickly. We have to be able to show value for their decision in working together, oftentimes much more quickly and continuously. Another trend that I really think is here to stay is this idea of decision by committee and consensus. If you've ever had to present to a committee, or you have had to have your work approved by the committee, your proposal approved by a committee, then you have definitely lived this trend. And what this comes down to, especially with building relationships, is we're often missing a relationship that's really important when you have more people involved in the decision-making process, and you have more people influencing the decision-making process. Another trend to be considering here is automation creating commoditization. I really believe that the big thing here is that the individual value that we all bring to the equation with our clients and pre-clients has to be front and center. Do we very clearly understand what they're looking for and the value that we can provide? Because a lot of tasks do become automated, right? And technology, can we leverage technology to our advantage and really help our clients and pre-clients solve the big strategic executive level problems that they are looking to solve for? So this becomes about thoughtfully using technology and using it to our advantage and our clients' advantage, but making sure that we are still part of that equation and always bringing value to them. Radical business model transformation. Probably a lot of your clients have gone through this or in the midst of it. Digitization is probably one of the biggest ones that comes to mind. But many of our clients are having to transform their businesses in order to continue to be successful, to recover from the last 18 months of disruption. Paying attention to that, and our role as a trusted advisor, part of our role is to help them navigate that with our specific expertise or the expertise of our firm. Then the last bullet point, which is probably not going to be a surprise to anybody here, is virtual business development efforts will continue. And we do spend some time delineating some of the differences between in-person and virtual, but many of your team members will build relationships and they will earn engagements completely through technology and virtually. And to have a comfort level with that and to know that it can be part of your toolkit going forward. So we can choose which skills that we need, whether it's in person or virtual, in order to help a client make a decision to move forward in working with us. So with that, Heath, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and then we can continue to move things along.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. In our last few minutes here, I'll highlight our program goals and then some of the logistical items. And for any program that we are involved with, we really like to highlight those goals, those expectations from your firm participants. And this program, it will be, as Amy alluded to, it's a combination of presentations and highly interactive training and workshop activities. So that is something that we really enjoy, is that interactivity piece of this. And during and after the program, part of our goal is to work with our participants on taking what they've learned and really putting them to some of the pursuits that they are working on. And we will also talk through coaching in a goal setting process. I know several firms are looking for ways to continue to improve in that area around goal setting, so that is something that we get into as well. And then as participants build on that advisory status and they start to see success with their business development efforts, and they're really setting the foundation for the culture within your firm. And some of our participants, some of the firms we've worked with that have been through this program, they have looked to send people through this to go back and potentially coach others within their firm, or to provide training for others within their firm as well. So here is the logistical piece of it. When you do register your participants, they will receive some pre-work. The pre-work, it's not a big, huge time commitment. I would say roughly maybe an hour or so. But really it helps them on the front end to really think through some of their top opportunities with current clients and prospective clients. And we like to build in that accountability piece and really try to take some of what we teach and to apply it to situations, client opportunities, prospective client opportunities, and really to see some success throughout the program. And then the second area around virtual classrooms. Our virtual classroom sessions, we will really focus on the process and various skills in each of those areas. And there will be, as Amy mentioned it as well, there will be opportunities to interact with other members potentially from your firm if you have more than one individual. And then we will also have some larger group discussions for them to potentially interact with other firms on the line as well. And then the part that I really enjoy as well as the mastery class in the coaching aspect of this. It is a little different format, and the coaching sessions, these were designed and developed for you. They're really to focus on top topics or maybe issues, opportunities, maybe even getting into current pursuits, or maybe it's even looking at a client slide deck or presentation that you put together. And that is an opportunity for Amy and I to do some one-on-one coaching with an individual or with others from your firm. And just maybe a way to think about that, our coaching sessions, I don't know if a little less formal, but it's really more of maybe you and your firm designing the agenda items of what you would like to focus on, and then Amy and I helping you make progress in those areas. So we really do enjoy the coaching aspect of this. And then the details, the program dates. I do have all of the dates here on the slide. I'm not going to read through every one of these. And the one observation, as I was looking at the various program dates and classroom dates, some of you may be thinking, well, this is right on the front end, right before we are hitting one of our busiest times of year with what we will call opportunity season, what some firms will call peak season. But part of this is intentional. Part of this is intentional based on our approach. Throughout the program, we do talk about spending up to half of our business development time with our top A and B level clients. I think sometimes there's a misconception where we have to focus all of our business development time on bringing in new clients. But I believe there is so much opportunity with our current client base, not only from bringing additional services, but as your firms are out working with clients, you're developing the raving fans. It opens the door to ask for introductions. I'll use the term introductions instead of referrals into their network. So in a lot of ways, the timing is perfect when some of your partners and your director, senior manager, when they're going to be spending a lot of time with their clients, this is a great opportunity to focus on business development as well. And then very similar to any program that we offer at Upstream, we do offer a unconditional guarantee. So if your firm, for whatever reason, is not satisfied with the program, we will refund that based on your level of satisfaction. I, knock on wood, I'll kind of joke, but in the time that I've been at Upstream, I've not experienced this yet. So I hope that's a good sign from our past participants that they have received good value from the program. And then our pricing options, we do have 3 levels of options for a firm. That part of this was by design to fit various size firms and different goals from firms, whether it's just focusing in on 4 or 5 individuals, or if it is something that you're looking to focus on in a broader perspective within your firm. So that per person level, we do have that option. We do have the option for up to 5 firm participants, and then for those looking to send more than that, which we did have some firms take that approach last year in our last cohort. And then the only other thing I'll point out is our UAN pricing options. That's our Upstream Academy network. We do have a peer group of firms that do get a discounted price based on that membership. They also get access to some of the other programs and presentations that we do at Upstream. So if you ever have questions about that UAN pricing, feel free to reach out to myself or Georgia Cummings or Kelsey. We'll have our contact information on the last slide, so you have that if you do have any questions. And then just as far as next steps, our first virtual class, it is in October, on October 21st. I know that seems like a few days away, but time does go by very quickly. It's hard to believe that we're already approaching October. And we do have that pre-work that I mentioned. So we would ask if you could plan accordingly. I think it would put your participants in a good position to be successful. Invest the right time on the front end to register by that Friday, October 8th deadline. So we do have a link on there just to drive you to that registration area. And then lastly, our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to our other team members at Upstream, myself or Amy, if you do have questions. As I mentioned, I'm always happy to have a one-on-one conversation with anyone on the line as well. So you do have my email address, and I know Amy would be open to that as well. So appreciate the time that you've invested here today. Hopefully, we will see some of your firm members in the next upcoming weeks. We hope you're having a great week. And once again, please feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. Have a great rest of your week, and thank you.